काफी लोग हैं आज भी, वो दिखाई नहीं देता पर काफी लोग हैं। जी। One of India's leading editors, he will be speaking to us. Would you listen to perspective? The reaction that have been coming across the spectrum today.
ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. We finished the 5th verse yesterday, but where Totakacharya displays his knowledge of what is needed in order to qualify for the jnanam, and what is needed primarily is the fructification of good karma, punya karma. Punya is very much needed. So one need not be in a hurry to say, oh, I'm dropping all karma, I'm dropping punya, papa, everything. Because especially when one is in the stage of studying, and in order to keep the study going, one needs one needs punya and this karma yoga. So the karma yoga is the best way of producing punya and harnessing it for the sake of the study shamelessly. That is what one has to do. Shamelessly harness the punya, and that's why it is recommended that one get into the seva mode, guru seva, gurukula seva, and some way in which one is plugged into some kind of purta karma, reaching out actions that bless one, reaching out actions that bless one to grow. That is the whole idea. The karma leads to growth, and punya comes, punya comes when I don't know what is happening, but something is something is somebody is sharing a screen, I'm sure by
Yeah,
mistake. Yeah, okay, there it's gone, no problem. Yeah, some, this Zoom is very touchy. You press one thing and something else happens. So this is what it is. So this punya is a very interesting thing. When the study takes place, then we don't want any obstacles, and this is what Totakacharya is indicating. Because the it is not just a, the Totakashtaka is not just a eulogy of the teacher. It is also showing the methodology of the teaching. It is also showing the what is its name, it's also showing the his own process, and it is also showing what is needed, the qualifications needed. And it is also showing his, displaying his humility, because he says, I don't have it yet. In fact, I still have to do punyarjana. I have to earn this punya, and please bless me by serving you to earn this punya, so that whatever you say goes into the head and is assimilated. So this is, this is this is a call for karma yoga, where everything is done for the sake of one's growth. And so, one practices being a karta by bringing in Ishvara as a proxy karta, where one dedicates whatever one has done to Bhagavan. One sees Bhagavan everywhere as the recipient of action, as the author of my actions, and as the one who enjoys the results of the results of action, who sends the results of action, is also Bhagavan. So this is the attitude where one has to grow. And in the process, one becomes a punya scavenger. One keeps collecting punya, so that one, is in a good place. Because you see, once the study starts, we don't need any obstacles, because the study is something which is very sacred and has come, the Viveka Chudamani says, after a long, long, long desire. After the longing has been there for a long, long, long time, then the study has come. The opportunity to study has come. And manushyanam sahasreshu kaschidyatati siddhaye, out of thousands of human beings, one of them gets this desire. And then again the Viveka Chudamani talks about how durlabham trayam eva etat. Three things are very, very difficult in this world. What are they? Manushyatvam, human birth; mumukshutvam, the desire to be free. You may be born as a human being, all right, but the desire to be free is not there. That this freedom is tethered to study is not there. Why? Because you are already free. The separating factor between you and freedom is not time or space, it is ignorance. The ignorance removed, you discover a self that is already free, that is already whole, that is already limitless. So that also takes a lot of emotional maturity to understand that. So three things are difficult, and they come only with the grace of God. One is the human birth, because if you're a dog or a cat, you can attend Vedanta classes, all right. People tell me all the time, my dog attends your class, my puppy takes your class. Well, the puppy is taking the class because you are sitting there. Puppy is not listening to me, puppy is attached to you, okay? That's what I keep saying. And maybe there is some kind of purva janma vasana. Maybe in the last life the puppy was a human being who you never know, interested in Vedanta. Now it can sit in front of the computer and but then it cannot understand anything. So the human life is a big blessing, because you are able to be in touch with your own ignorance of yourself, which you cannot stand, and then after that you are in touch with how to fix that ignorance. You are able to seek a source of knowledge, you are able to study. This is a great blessing. And however, they're like, what is that? Like that saying, there is many a slip between the cup and the lip. The cup of the Shastra overflowing with the knowledge, and the lip is the Antakarana into which the knowledge is poured. Many slips are there, and the slips are what? Karmic slips. You don't even know. Suddenly something happens and one is not able to log on, or nothing happens, something happens inside the head, and suddenly one decides, alam vedantena, enough of Vedanta. Been there, done that. I got bored. How can you get bored of yourself? You can't get bored of yourself. That's why even when somebody is 92 years old, if you pass by a reflecting surface like a store front or something, immediately one will stop and look at oneself. Such is the love for the self. Here the self is thought to be the body or the mind. So that which is limitless is always an object of love. Here it is the very subject. That which is the source of joy is always something to be loved. So then the subject, the I, is always beloved. And Vedanta is non-separate from the subject I. So then there is, one cannot get tired, one cannot get bored, one cannot get fed up. And if you are on the brink of getting A, tired, B, bored, C, fed up, then see me after class. Simple. Okay, that is all I will say. So that means there is something else going on. Something else going on the level of the I notion, the ahankara, something else going on that needs to be fixed. It's not that Vedanta needs to be fixed or you need to go away from Vedanta. It is prarabdha. Prarabdha means it is the karmic, some kind of karma burping up. Yeah, it's like a after burp. It's like small babies. You feed them the feeding bottle and then you have to place them on your shoulder and burp them up. And little bit of milk they spit up because they have small elementary canals, small stomach, everything. And so this is the karmic spit up. This is all it is. I am bored, I am sick of Vedanta, Vedanta doesn't work for me. This sounds like one's own hopelessness as a samsari. Very, very sorry. One's own fear and one's own misunderstanding that there are thousands of pursuits and I have no time to pursue Vedanta because Vedanta is yet one more thing to do. Vedanta is not one more desire to pursue, one more thing to pursue. In fact, it's the only thing to pursue, knowing which everything is as good as known, knowing which everything is all right. And we can accept the fact, the Shastra accepts the fact that one cannot understand this, that one is beyond understanding this because there are so many things to do and one has desires and wants to pursue them. And that's why the Shastra has an ingenious system of learning to grow and doing all the things that you are doing and also pursuing Vedanta. Yeah. And this is where Karma Yoga comes into the picture. You grow as you are leading your life by the simple method of transferring the authorship, the agency of your actions onto the source of the universe, Jagat Karanam Brahma, Ishvara Bhagavan. Who did this? Ishvara did this. It is very nice. It's because everything is a prasada. And so you don't feel guilty, you wash your hands of the guilt and hurt. In fact, in our culture, many children are called prasada. Durga Prasad, Ram Prasad, Lalu Prasad. One corrupt politician, in India. And his mother must have been very, very wise because as soon as she took one look at his face, she said, "It is Lalu." Lalu means baby Krishna. It is Lord Krishna's problem, not my problem. This is good. This is wonderful. And all this Krishna Prasad, Ram Prasad, Durga Prasad, these are the names. The child itself is a prasada. It was not authored by me. You ask any mother, did you make the brains of the child? No. Don't eat my brains. How will I know how to make the brains of the child? Did you make the heart? Of course not. I just incubated the child in my womb for 9 months. I didn't make anything. I don't know what happened. How this child comes out with fingers and toes intact and a brain and cries and does everything. This little person comes out. I have no idea how this person comes out and what this person is. Did you make the hands and legs? What are you talking about? How can I make hands and legs? Did you make kidney? I only know how to make rajma, kidney beans. I know how to cook. I don't know how to make kidneys. Don't ask me all these things. So therefore the name Prasad is given to the child, because it is not you are not the author of anything. And but at the same time, the misappropriation of one's status as an agent of action gives rise or leads is a recipe for sorrow, gives rise to sorrow, leads one to sorrow without a doubt, leads one to sorrow. No other way of putting this, leads one to sorrow. And because of this, there is an injunction in the Ishavasya Upanishad that there are two ways to study this. If you are like Totaka, you can drop everything and then go on Jnana Marga, the path of knowledge. You study all the time. Okay. No, that's too scary. There is another way. You can study while pursuing all your things, provided you make your life geared towards self growth, and learn to receive everything as a gift, as a prasada. That's what it is. So you're not always fighting with the universe. And then, of course, an integral part of Karma Yoga is Ishvara, prayer. Ishvara, Bhagavan, is front and center of any discussion of Karma Yoga. And so there is prayer. And what does the prayer do? The prayer increases the punya by reducing the papa. The prayer reduces the papa. Because think about it, another word for papa punya is called adrishta, unseen, because you don't know when karma attacks, you don't know how it will come, where it will come from, you don't know. And so you unleash some more unseen karma in the form of prayer, because you don't know its effects, you don't know when it will fructify. And so this adrishta, which you have just done by doing Sharanagati to Guru, Ishvara, etc., will take care of that adrishta, your own karmic residues from this or other lives. And so therefore the prayer is always and this is there even in our tradition. When you do a fire ritual, the first thing the priest will make you do, put some flour, put some, what is that, this holy rice, akshata, and then clasp the right hand over the left hand. This is the declaration of sankalpa, your intention to do this ritual. And you say, I want money, that's why I am doing Shri Sukta Homa. But the priest will first make you repeat, Mama Upatta Duritakshayadvara Shri Parameshwari Prityartham Aham Idam Karishye. You say, I want money, that's why I am invoking the goddess of abundance, Lakshmi Devi, through Chandi Homa, Shri Sukta Homa. I'm doing this. I'm not interested in anything else. But the Kalpa Shastra, the know-how of how to do this ritual, insists that you first say, declare your intention that I'm doing this ritual. This fire ritual is being done by me to reduce the load of Papa. Durita means the papa karma. Let all the papa karma go, because I am putting this effort. And so the first sankalpa, the default sankalpa, is only for the sake of reduction of papa. After that, dharmartha moksha kamartham, like this, so for the sake of artha kama, all these artha kama pursuits come later. First is this. So this is gotten established, in the tradition this is established. And this is what Totakacharya is referring to and saying, in your service. So I am also leading a life of Karma Yoga, but with a twist, with a wonderful twist. And what is this twist? I am serving you. You who is Jagat Guru Adi Shankaracharya, you who will be, like a firmament in the sky, that never forgotten. and you who will continue to lead people out of the doldrums of samsara into the happiness of moksha, and you who will be the cause of making people happy for time immemorial. I am serving the one like you. Think of how much punya I am getting. And then, after amassing some punya, the papa kshaya will take place, and then I will be truly qualified to learn this teaching. And this samadarshana means this vision of oneness. For this vision, I will have lalasata. I will have the desire to study. And if he is talking like this, what to talk about the rest of us? So, such an exalted guru, such an exalted student. So, what to talk of the rest of humanity? So therefore, what? So therefore, this this one has to be mindful of, that qualifying for this knowledge is not something to be taken for granted. That I will turn on the computer and the classes will just zoom in and I can take it anytime. Why should I just turn it on at such a time? That's why I keep telling the teacher, please record, please record, please record. And for the record, nobody listens to the recording. Okay, yeah, this is just for the record. The intention is there, the sankalpa is there, I am going to listen to the recorded one, but kuch nahi hota hai. Yeah. Some dialogue in the film was there, kuch kuch hota hai, idhar kuch nahi hota hai, nothing happens here. Nothing happens. The sankalpa is made very sincerely, the sankalpa is gone. And that is why one needs to be vigilant of this adhikaritvam. One needs to not take that, and here Totaka is telling us that one needs to not take the teacher for granted, the teaching for granted. Why? Because one's own durita, papa karmas, can come in the way of obstructing one's access to the knowledge. And I asked somebody, what happened? How come you haven't come for a few classes? Are you okay? Is everything all right? I just didn't feel like it. And that is some kind of a adhyatmika ashanti. An adhyatmika vigna, an obstacle centered on yourself. Suddenly there is some kind of a viparita bhavana, some kind of habitual orientation, sick of Vedanta, enough of Vedanta, don't like Vedanta, all of a sudden, all these things come up. And then there is adhibhautika vignani, obstacles coming from one's surrounding. Something happens in life, one is busy, one is tired, whatever it is. Adhibhautika vignani. And then there is adhidaivika vignas. Till yesterday night, you were playing a video game or watching Netflix, and the computer was just fine. And then in the morning, what happened? The computer is just not turning on. Oh no matter, I'll take the class on the phone. Well, that was a phony idea, because the phone is out of juice. You forgot to charge it. And so this is what is called some kind of vigna over which you have no control. Adhidaivika vigna, adhibhautika vigna, things and people in your own surroundings that come in the way of this knowledge. And then finally everything else is working fine, but I myself have some blocks, and all this raga, dvesha in the antakarana, the unconscious mind, spitting up some obstacle or the other and taking one away from Brahman. That's why we have the prayer in the Samaveda Shanti Mantra. Maham Brahma Nirakuryam. May I never be away from Brahman. Mama Brahma Nirakarot. May Brahman never be away from me. Why will Ishvara go away from you? In fact, everything that is there is Ishvara. Ishvara doesn't have the privilege, even if he may be sick of you, he doesn't have the privilege of going away from you, because he is you. You are Ishvara. So how can Ishvara go away from you? But it is, this is how it is talked about, because of the fact that one feels one is alienated from Ishvara. And verse number 5 shows this very beautifully. The desire to study has to be fueled with Shraddha, with Bhakti, with Karma Yoga. You keep putting the ghee of Shraddha, Bhakti and Karma Yoga into the fuel of Jignasa, Mumuksha, into the fuel of the desire to study, the desire to be free. And then what happens? And then the bad karma, aka Papa, reduces, punya increases, and then finally one becomes qualified to study this knowledge. And that's why he says, Ati deenam imam palayamam. See how helpless I am. See, even to get the qualifications, I have to do so many things, and I am the squeaky wheel among all your students, and I need more attention right now. I have to have this because without you, I can't get this knowledge. So, unabashedly begging the teacher for more love, more attention, and with the best of, not from a place of the unconscious mind unleashed, but from a place of humility and sharanagati, surrender and supplication. Next one. Jagatimavitum kalita kritayo vicharanti mahamahasaschalatah ahimam shurivatra vibhasi guro bhavashankara deshikame sharanam bhavashankara deshikame sharanam. So Jagatim means Jagat. That's all it means. Jagatim means the Jagat, this whole universe. Avitum, to protect. Yeah, to protect. Avitum. And the suffix is tumun, ava plus tumun, and it takes the agama called it. And so avitum. Jagatim avitum, in order to protect the universe. Kalita akritayah, various forms. Akriti, forms. Various forms. Kalita again from kal, to take on, to create. So kalita, past passive participle, created various forms. So in order to protect, they created various forms, they manifested in various forms. Who are these people? The great one, Mahamahasaha, the great ones, created for themselves various bodies, like avatara, like even Adi Shankara. Adi Shankara is seen as a avatara of Shankar Bhagavan, of Bhagavan Shiva. And so these great ones, Mahamahasaha, what did they do? They got into many bodies. Not one person got into many bodies. Many great people took on the bodies, took on various bodies. What for? And what for? To help the people, to help the universe. Loka sangrahartham. In Loka Sangraha means in order to make the world a better place. And this is all because of our prayers. All the people in the world pray. Trahim mam, pahim mam, help me, save me, take care of me. Look at what's happening. Oh Lord, where are you? We are all feeling alienated from you. Injustice, adharma is on the rise. Come, oh, come wherever you are. And maybe some, that will give rise to a sage or many sages. So like this, there are sages in the universe, whether you know them or not, whether they belong to the Hindu dharma or not, whether they are born in India or not, doesn't matter. There are saints and sages everywhere. If you are not looking for them, you'll never see them. You'll never encounter them. If you don't want them, they will never cross your path. But they are there. And this is there, which is, this promise is there in the Bhagavad Gita as well. We hear in the fourth chapter, what is that? Tad vidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya, 36th verse. Upadekshyanti te jnanam jnaninah tattvadarshinaha. So, if you approach them with the right attitude, says Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, these jnanis, these teachers will definitely teach you, they are there. And then in the, what is that called, that famous work, Viveka Chudamani, also we have a beautiful verse which is talking about the same message which is there in this particular, in verse number 6. Shanta Mahanto Nivasanti Santah Vasantavaloka Hitam Charantah Tirna Swayam Bhima Bhavarnavam Janan Ahetuna Anyanapitarayantaha. The Viveka Chudamani says there are people who move quietly in this world. Who are these people? How are they? Shantaha. Shantaha means they are absolutely at peace and contentment with themselves and with everybody and everything they encounter. They are not fighting with the Jagat or quarreling with the people in the Jagat. Mahantaha, that's why they are great. Nivasanti, they definitely reside in this world. Who are they? Santaha, they are the saints. And then what do? Lokahitam charantaha. They help the world become a better place by comforting the people and taking away their pains and sorrows. Like what? Vasantavat. Vasantavat, like even the spring season. The spring season? It's so beautiful. And such a beautiful season. Everything is all rainy and snowy. And then suddenly something purple in the snow comes. All of a sudden. Where were you yesterday? It shrugs its shoulders. I don't know. I just came. A purple flower, crocus, suddenly comes. Small. But then in this white landscape, suddenly it's coming. And then it's almost as though the purple flower is blossoming not in the snow, but in the winter callus of your heart. Hope returns. Spring is not far away. There is a saying, if winter comes, can spring be far behind? No, it is not. In fact, there is a pramana, there is proof that the winter is going. And what does the winter represent? A time of sitting with yourself, hibernation, a time of no activity, boredom, cold. And winter represents samsara. Nothing is happening, the status quo. Yesterday cold, today colder. Depressed. Sad. And in fact, sad, there is a pun on it. Sad as in everyday sad, and sad as in SAD, seasonal affective disorder. Many people do get depressed because it's such a boring time. Nothing is happening, hard to go out, and it's cold all the time. And then when that little flower comes, maybe a daffodil comes, an early daffodil comes, and a small crocus comes, something comes, and then immediately the heart is lightened, and then soon as you take a walk every day, the scene is transformed. Suddenly one whole tree is in bloom. It's completely pink. Yeah, yesterday it looked a little kind of, funny, but I did not pay attention to it, but it was all the buds were there. And today it's a riot of colors. All the trees are in bloom, everything is in bloom, the heart skips, and, You feel like hugging everybody, you feel like embracing the whole universe. The mood lightens. And then the spring says, my hourly rate is so and so, correct? After 3 months, it says, okay, you've got this show. There is no such thing called free. What do you mean free? You have to give me something here. And here is my hourly rate. And the cherry trees in your backyard, they bloomed in succession. Not a single one did not bloom. And so that means each tree blooming is this many dollars, and you have to give it to me. Does it say that? No. Ahetuna. Hetu means what? Reason. Hetuna with reason, because of, due to a certain reason. Ahetuna, without cause, without reason, senselessly blooms. Without thinking, oh, I will get tired. Maybe I shouldn't expend all these things. After all, these people are so, these people are so idiotic that they are always on a device. And they're always looking in the computer, looking in the phone, and they, even on the dinner table, the children are sitting with the phones and messaging one another. This is this family. So why should I bother? The spring doesn't say nobody appreciates me. The desert rose doesn't say nobody can look at me, and then nobody can smell the fragrance and pick up the, this delight. Nobody cares for nature. They say that nature is overrated. And in fact, if they want to see nature, what will they do? They will just Google natural photographs, and then they will they will see everything on their phone, on their device. I am depressed, says the spring season. Nobody loves me, nobody appreciates me. It can have this complex in Kali Yuga, and it can have the complex in these modern days, when one would rather stare at a small 13-inch screen and look at some lake, a placid lake, rather than actually seeing what is in one's backyard. But the spring doesn't say that. Without reason, without any calculation, is anybody appreciating me? What am I going to get out of this? Am I making sense? Are people better off because of me? Without any cause, without any self-centered cause. It just blooms. And these Shantaha, Mahantaha, all these saints who are great, they too flower like the spring, whether anybody is picking up the fragrance of their teaching or not. Whether they feel like they are making a difference or not is immaterial, because they are not trying to do anything. The spring is not acting, it is just being. Similarly, these sages and saints are simply being themselves in the universe. They simply are. And then who are they? Stirnaha Swayam, they themselves have crossed. What have they crossed? Bhima Bhavarnavam. Bhima means scary. Bhava, samsara, Arnava, the ocean. They have themselves, with great, with having the right attitude and great effort, crossed over the scary ocean of samsara. And therefore, they see, they take it upon themselves, ahetuna, without any reason, anyanapi tarayantaha, to help other people cross over in the same way, that scary ocean of samsara. This should give a lot of confidence. Because if somebody came from, and came and said, I appoint myself as your savior. Who asked you? Who told you I want to be saved? And who saved you? Nobody saved me. I know everything because I was dropped from the sky. This is very suspicious. All these self-appointed quote-unquote God men and God women have no place in the Hindu tradition. Really, in the Vedanta tradition, they have no place, because the first question they ask is, what is your lineage? Who did you study with? That's all they are interested in. And therefore, if somebody says, I gained all this knowledge apne aap, and you know what we will say, please keep this knowledge to yourself and enjoy it, don't give it to me. Because what kind of a knowledge will it be which has come from your own head? This is not a cult. This is a flow of a live tradition, like the river Mother Ganga. You choose to dip in it. She doesn't say, come and dip in me. She is happy no matter what. So, like this, the flow of knowledge continues. Some people come and choose to drink of it. Some others choose to drink of it and then spread it to others. That is all just how it is supposed to be. And so here, like the Viveka Chudamani says, there are these great ones who just keep doing good no matter what accolades they get, or no matter even if they are not even acknowledged, they still do it because it is the correct thing to do. Because they themselves are just there and then they just teach. Somebody, I remember, asked Pujya Swamiji, why do you continue to teach? Why do you teach? You're not well, Swamiji. Because he was having so much difficulty, especially during the end. His lungs were filling up with water, heart was gone, eyes were gone, ears were going. Nothing, he could hardly see, he could hardly hear, but he would still sit and teach. And so, why do you teach? Why do you continue to teach? And very patiently he explained, because I see no reason not to. I don't see any reason not to teach. Because I'm here and this is what I do. This is who I am. And you are here, you are sitting in front of me and listening. Every day you come. And then he said, if you stop coming, I'll also stop coming. I'll also not come to the classroom. This is all it is. And so like this, people who unconditionally love everything and everybody in the universe, and an expression, the best expression, the most exalted expression of this unconditional love is the giving of Brahma Vidya, because there is no more of a thankless job than that. And you don't expect to be thanked. You don't expect even that people will be transformed. In fact, you don't even expect that if people come to one class, they'll come to another class. This is how we were taught. This is a tradition where the teaching is given without any calculation, with zero manipulation. I'm giving you this so that I can increase something, I can, so that the following will be more. Nothing like that. A guru is not a guru who keeps on seeking followers. Nobody is asked to follow anybody. And so this is how it is. And so therefore, so like this, the people are there, the saints are there, and they will definitely teach you if you ask them to. And a similar verse is given here. Jagatim avitum kalita akritayah mahamahasah chalatah vicharanti. This is the Anvaya. Mahamahasah, the great ones. Chalatah. Chalatah means furtively. Paddy paws, without making any noise. Like a cat. You don't know when the cat comes in the house, and you don't know when the cat has drunk up all the milk. And only when you want your coffee, then you say, oh, somebody was there. And so like this, like a kitten, these sadhus, like cats, they just walk the universe and nobody knows that they have even come and gone. But they have made a difference. Whether it's they have made a difference in one life or many lives, that is their own prarabdha, that is their own karma. That is not even worth discussing or talking about. That's not the point of this verse. The point of this verse is to see that many people have taken their life's work, they have taken on the purpose. Kalita akritayah can have two meanings. They have taken on this whole life. They are like baby avatars who have come to make the world a better place. Or Kalita akritayah can also refer to they have taken this as their life's work. And this we can expand the concept of Mahamahas. Mahamahas means the great ones, to include not just Vedanta teachers, but everybody who comes and makes a difference selflessly, like social reformers. Gandhi ji, Raja Ram Mohan Roy, all these people, Martin Luther King, Junior, all these people. They took upon themselves a very difficult purpose, and they did the best even at the cost of their own lives many times. And then there are people who fight injustice. There are people who help others. There are social reformers. There are protesters who bring down tyrannical governments. All of them are Mahamahasaha. They are all great. So all these great ones, and the truly great ones who don't advertise what they have done, quietly they do their jobs, chalatah, almost furtively, when nobody is looking, like little elves. You have the concept of Christmas elves who come and then who make the toys, and then who do all these things when nobody is looking. So good acts are best done when nobody is looking, really. But then after that, you don't come and say, you know what, I did this. No, there is no I there. The Guru here, there is no I there. And there is no doing either. There is neither an I nor there is a doing. Much less an author of action. And so therefore the doing happens. The Guru knows, and the great reformers who have Tyaga know that this happens because of Ishvara. I am in this position to give, and the giving is happening, and the receiving is also happening. It's all a blessing. So like this they roam. And then Mahamahas, see, this is a very interesting and very beautiful word. Even though you translate it as the great ones, Mahas actually means shiny things in the firmament. One meaning, resplendent things in the firmament. So Mahamahas means out of the great shiny things in the universe, like Betelgeuse. Betelgeuse is a huge sun. In front of Betelgeuse, our solar system sun is a small little pixel. Okay, that how big it is. And there are other bodies, asteroids, and so many things, planets, blue dwarf and stars, blue dwarf, yellow dwarf, red dwarf, in various stages of combustion. So many stars are there, so many bodies are there. And then there is now grey matter, no, black matter, all these things, antimatter, so many matter, yeah. And after a while it really doesn't matter, because how many things are there in this universe? They all, some of them just go like comets. Another example, comets also, sometimes you don't even know they have come and gone, because even though you have the Hubble telescope, which is keeping on upgrading itself, it is still not enough to see what is there to see, all the things that are there to see. In fact, when the Hubble telescope says, oh, this planet we have discovered, this star we have discovered, and this quote unquote discovered star, they saw, you see what is there 14 billion years ago. By the time the light reaches the telescope and then your eyes and everything, it's all in the past. Who knows if it's still there in the same way? You don't know. And so like this, you don't even know what all is there in the universe, in the firmament, in the atmosphere. Whatever comes, you don't even know. You can't see many things with the naked eye, but those things come and go. They light up the skies perhaps, or they just do whatever their job is there to do, and they just do it and go away quietly. Like this, the gurus in the form of heavenly bodies go in the firmament. They're all doing the comets, various gurus like comets. They light up the sky, they go in the firmament. They vicharanti, they move in the firmament without any desire to make a change, without any desire for the outcome of their action, and without any desire for themselves. They move in the firmament. And out of all these celestial bodies moving in the firmament throughout the ages, from 14 billion years ago till now means till Totaka's time when he was composing this verse. And who are you? Hey Guru Vibhasi. You have a special shine among all these celestial bodies that have come, that have gone, that will come, that will go, that will bless this firmament. Why? Because you shine. How do you shine? Ahimam shuhu iva atra. Here, O Guru, you shine. You know, very nice word, ahimamshu. Amshu means rays. Himamshu means the icy cool rays. What has cool icy rays? Huh? Don't say the stalactites that form in my freezer. No, no, that's not what it is. It's the moon. The moon has cool rays. So the moon is called Himamshu, the cool rayed one. Yeah. And then you negate that. Ahimamshu, not the cool rayed one. Not cool aid, okay, alright, cool rayed, the one with cool rays. So then, if you say not the cool rayed one, who are we talking about? The sun. The one with hot rays. So if you don't have cool rays, what else can you have? What about lukewarm rays? That's not the idea. So cool, hot, cold, hot. It's the opposite because it's the Nanj Tat Purusha. Nanj Tat Purusha Samasa, meaning it's a negative particle It's not other than cool. Anyatra. It's not other than cool, something other than cool. And it is, so you cannot say uncool rays. It's not, like that. It is not lack of coolness. That's why you cannot get the meaning, the one with tepid rays, that it doesn't fit. It is viparitarthe, nanj. It is the opposite meaning. And then that means what? Hot rayed one. Among all these celestial bodies that have come to do good and bless the firmament, they keep moving in the firmament from time immemorial. You, my Guru, hey Guru, you, O Guru, shine like the sun. You light up the whole universe. Where you preside, where you reside, there is not an iota of darkness, because your whole incarnation is that of the light of knowledge that you bring to ignorant minds. Who are you, O Shankara? You are that which lights up ignorant minds, like even the sun that lights up the whole firmament, and in its light all the moon disappears, all the other heavenly bodies don't have a chance. And you want to see this Jupiter Saturn conjunction, you can't look at it when the sun is there, no chance. That's why you have to look at it when the cool rayed one comes out, when the moon comes out, not when the sun comes out. You can't see any star, no matter how big the star. The sun is the bhakshaka, gobbles up everything, not a chance, not a comparison. So you, O Guru, are like the sun, who swallows up all other teachers, who swallows up all other, what is that called, any other good social workers, anybody who does good, because all the good that they do is on the relative level, on the level of transactional empirical reality. But you give absolute happiness by showing that the self is absolutely itself, the self is absolute, there is nothing other than you. You are the source of unbridled and limitless joy, and when you show them that, they are enlightened to their nature, and you fill their mind, you flood their mind like the light of the sun, so that the little stars and all the other things, few stars that they have got because of the ahankara, I have done this, I have done that, all of them are swallowed up. There is nothing else that is competing with the sun, not even raga, not even dvesha, not even ahankara, nothing is there. The sun takes it, gobbles up everything. And likewise, of all the things that move in the firmament in the form of heavenly bodies, you quietly make this transformation. You are the best of the best, the most exalted of the gurus. You shine like the sun. Hey Bhavashankara, oh the crosser of sorrows, the one who causes one to cross over sorrows. Hey Deshika, oh teacher, who indicates to me the meaning, helps me assimilate the meaning of the Mahavakya, the teaching that shows you are one with the whole. Me Sharanam, I am in your refuge. He doesn't even bother to say, take me in your refuge. He says, I am in your refuge. I have decided. Next one. Guru Pungava Pungava Ketanate Samataamayatam nahi kopi sudhi शरणागतवत्सलतत्त्वनिधे भवशङ्करदेशिकमे शरणं भवशङ्करदेशिकमे शरणं. So, next one, Guru Pungava, a compound, Guru Nam Pungava, the Pungava of the Gurus. What is this Pungava? Pum means man, okay? Gava, everybody knows, cow. Man cow of all the Gurus. Very inelegant translation. Man cow means bull, okay? Yeah. It's a metaphor. A metaphor in Sanskrit is called Upalakshana. So it's like saying a lion among the humans. A lion among human beings. So we are not paying obeisance to the lion here. The lion has come and done its job and gone. And so a lion among human beings, if you say poetically, what does it mean? That he or she stands out because of bravery, courage, the most courageous among human beings. That is the tatparya, that is the purport. The purport, we are not having anything to do with the bull. And in the Bhagavad Gita also we have this bull business, very interesting to how to try. And then when you read the translation, you can't but smile. Hey Bharatarshava, oh bull among the Bharata clan. So an elegant translation here would be to say the most exalted in the Bharata clan. It's not wrong to say bull among the Bharata clan, but you see the intended meaning here. And the intended meaning here, Gurunam Pungava, and a bull among all the Gurus. No. The most exalted of all the Gurus, who stands out like a bull among the herd of cows. That is the idea. Because if it's a group of bulls, then no point in saying bull among the Gurus, bull among all the bulls. What is that? No, it makes no sense. So imagine a herd of cows, and the cows are a particular size, a particular shape, and a particular weight, etc. And then there is one bull among many cows, and then you say a bull. So that is why you say this is the bull among all the things. So like this, lion among the lion like human being. And so that means what? All the others are creatures of the forest, hyenas, jackals, all these, rabbits, etc. And then you have this person who is the most courageous, the leader of everyone, the lion among human beings. So similarly here, a stalwart presence. All the other Gurus are like cows. They cannot hold a candle to my Guru. Oh Guru, you are the most exalted of all Gurus. You are like a bull that stands out in a herd of cows. And all this you cannot say in this translation. This is just to understand. And translation you will say the most exalted of Gurus. It's not, it's not incorrect to say a bull among Gurus, but people will not understand the metaphor. The most exalted of all Gurus. And then, and then what is that? Pungava Ketana, another compound. So, Gurunam Pungavaha, that was the 6 TP, and then Pungava Ketana Bahuvrihi. Pungavaha Ketanaha Yasya Saha. The one Ketana means this what is that? Mascot, flag, mascot. Like you have in America, and you have the various teams with animals as their mascot. And so when a particular team is playing, somebody in that particular animal's costume comes and goes like this and does some things to catch the attention. So every sports team has a mascot. And the mascot of one of the teams is banana slug. Yeah, in Santa Cruz. In the University of Santa Cruz, the banana slug, a very lowly mascot, but it is there in plenty there, and so they made that the mascot. Banana slug. And so a slimy yellow little thing, a small snail. Okay, so anyhow, you have a mascot. Similarly, in the Hindu tradition, we have every Bhagavan, every manifestation of Bhagavan has a mascot, has an animal that they ride. Vahanam asti. And what is this Vahana? And then this Vahana means they ride over that. And when you ride over something, you have mastery over that thing. Like Kartikeya, Lord Subramanyeshwara, the mascot here is the, what is that? Peacock. He rides on the peacock. And what is the peacock? Vanity. So the one who has gained mastery over vanity. And the goddess in all her forms, Durga, etc., Kali, they ride over the what is that, tiger or lion or leopard. This is big cat. They don't settle for a Maine Coon, a small cat. No, no, no. And what is that? That is good for nothing. Yeah. This one will be a huge cat. Intractable. Don't know when it will pounce. Don't know when it will get angry. And this huge cat is a compendium of raga dvesha. It stands for the anger. And when does anger come? If you have taken even a single Vedanta class with me, you will know that I keep saying anger comes when desire is thwarted, when you cannot have a desire met. It morphs into anger. Like the newest mutation of the coronavirus which is coming from England. It mutates. At first it was a raga or a dvesha, but then you try to fulfill it, the Bhagavan says no, and then you can't fulfill it, you get angry, the lion in you comes out, and here I don't mean courage, okay? The tiger in you comes out, you take a swipe at anybody that is there. You hiss, you spit, you growl, and this is anger. And the goddess, the compassionate goddess, happily sits on the tiger. Happily sits on the tiger. The tiger is also just, starts to purr. Yeah, starts to make purring sound and rubs itself against the goddess. Why? Because she has the power to tame the anger. Surrendering to Bhagavan in the form of the goddess has the power to tame the anger. Wonderful it is. And the anger nicely tamed, she is the master of all negative emotions, kama, krodha, moha, mada, matsarya, all these things. And she rides the tiger. Means she is the master of all these emotions, especially anger. So like this, everything. And then Lord Ganesha also has a mascot, a very paradoxical, unlikely mascot. Ganesha is huge because he is Gananam Patihi. He holds the whole universe in his belly. And so he just gets tired of walking one day. The story goes. This is all Puranic, this is how you teach children. And then catches hold of a rat and sits on it and goes. And then what does the rat or the mouse symbolize? The mouse symbolizes a restless mind. Keeps on wanting to chew through things and needlessly, all the time destroying, the destructive, restless mind that reduces everything to a powder, always. And the rat is keeping on making nests and chews up newspaper and makes a nest, all these things. So this hoarding tendency and this destructive and restless tendency, Lord Ganesha has mastery over that. So that is how one chooses the Ishta Devata. So if you have anger issues, the Mother Goddess is waiting for you to surrender the anger at her feet. If you have restlessness, you want to conquer the restless mind, Ganesha says, Ajao, come to me. If there is vanity issues, ahankara issues, Kartikeya is there waiting with a peacock. And all these things. So this is all the, this is all just very metaphorical. You can't take it literally. And then we have a mascot for Lord Shiva, Nandi. Again, Pungava, bull. Mascot is Nandi. Why is the mascot Nandi? Because Nandi stands for, the bull stands for tamas. Tamas, ignorance, slow moving, sloth, not wanting to do anything. Forget studying Vedanta. Who wants that? I don't even want to go from one room to another. I just want to be in bed all the time. This is tamas. Tamas also, this is on the relative level, on the Vyavaharika Satta, on the level of the everyday, transactional, empirical reality. Tamas is depression. Tamas this is all unbalanced tamas, okay? Tamas is depression. Tamas is not, apathy. Tamas is not wanting to be motivated. Tamas is also resentment. All this is tamas. And on the Paramarthika level, when you're talking of the level of gaining this knowledge, becoming a Jignasu, Tamas stands for self-ignorance. Self-ignorance alone is tamas, and then that, for which one needs knowledge. That's why the Nandi is sitting, not standing, in front of Lord Shiva. Nandi sits down. And in some versions, if you see the Lord Dakshinamurti statue in Sailorsburg, then he is sitting on Nandi. He is riding Nandi. Why? Because he has mastery over Atma Ajnanam. If you surrender to Lord Dakshinamurti, who is an Adi Guru Avatara of Lord Shiva as the first teacher of Vedanta, and if you surrender to Lord Dakshinamurti, what happens? The tamas goes. The one who has mastery over Ajnanam. So Pungava Ketana, the one who has for the flag a Nandi. So that's why you look at Lord Shiva in between the Nandi's ears. So you identify first with the Ajnanam, and then you go like this and look at Lord Shiva just like through the vision of Nandi. If I were sitting like Nandi in front of Lord Shiva, what would I see? And the horns, of course, represent the horns of a dilemma. And what are the horns of a dilemma? Raga, dvesha, doubt, despair, all these things, all these oppositional oppositional emotions. Fears, tears, fear and sorrow, doubt and despair, all these things. In and through that I see. In and through my tamas, I surrender to Bhagavan. So, He Pungava Ketana, oh, the one who has for his mascot the bull, the Nandi mascot one, the one who rides over self-ignorance effortlessly as riding an animal, effortlessly as riding a bull. And so, in invoking him, Adi Shankara, as Bhagavan, as an incarnation of Bhagavan Dakshinamurti, the student here, Totaka, is asking for self-knowledge. Because that's all I see in you. I don't see anything else. Because he could have also said, please give me some of those golden gooseberries that you manifested at that lady's house the other day. Please give me this, give me that. No, I don't want anything. I just want to help me to surrender, so I get this knowledge. And so the Nandi, signifies tamas. The bull signifies tamas, but it is called Nandi because it is surrendered. So the Nandi signifies the ignorant student sitting at the feet of the Lord Shiva, who is the teacher. And in seeing this, already one is transformed. So therefore, Pungavaketana means the one who has as his mascot the tamas, the one who has taken as his job the task of removing Atma Ajnanam. To whom? All those who surrender. This is why it is Nandi. It is not just any bull. Yeah, because there may be many bulls, but there'll be one Nandi because it represents the tamas that is surrendered to Jnanam. Tamas here, ignorance, tamas also ahankara, which which is because of ignorance, it has a big role in one's life. Ahankara, the ego, the I notion. And so this is all that this is all that comes into the picture. We have to see this very so beautiful. So, just the act of surrender, what does it do? The tamas is reduced to a little being at the bottom of Lord Dakshinamurti's foot. And if you have examined a Lord Dakshinamurti statue carefully, you will see that. You will see that there is a being at the bottom of Lord Dakshinamurti's foot. And then you say, what is this? At first, it looks like a baby, a child. It looks like a child. And then you say, oh my God, it's a child. How is this, how is this, why is Lord Dakshinamurti, putting his foot on a child? Why is this Lord Dakshinamurti putting his foot on a child? You don't, you cannot see. And you cannot understand even how is this happening, why is this happening, and why is he trampling as it were a little child. And so this is something which is intriguing. But then you have a look, you have a closer look, and then when you have a closer look, you see that it is not a child at all. It's a truncated human being. It's a human being that is kind of a dwarf. It has not, what is that called? It hasn't completely grown up. It is an adult dwarf, a little person, so to speak. And what does it do? It is just there, and it is actually looking a little dangerous. And how is it looking a little dangerous? Because it has got a, so in some depictions it's got a snake in one hand, and then it's got a sword in the other. And in traditional depictions it has got a sword in one hand and a shield in the other. This is the tamasic jiva, a jiva endowed with self ignorance, a jiva endowed with self ignorance, which which turns that person into into what, which turns that person into someone who is offensive and defensive at the same time. Offensive symbolized by the chaku, the knife, the sword, and defensive with the shield. So this is the ignorance blessed ego, the ego blessed by ignorance. The ego that is blessed by ignorance is what? Is like an overgrown woman child, man child. There is an expression man child, meaning he is a man but he behaves like a child. So man child, woman child, here also the person is chronologically an adult, mentally and emotionally, completely unfit to be called an adult. Completely unfit to be called an adult. And so such a child is the one is the one that is being talked about here. And and such a child is the one that is at the foot of the Lord. What does that represent? That being at the foot of the Lord represents something. It means that it is a surrendered ahankara. It's the surrendered ahankara that is that the Lord has taken into, um, into the fold. The Lord has taken into the fold this surrendered ahankara, and this surrendered ahankara is now ready for knowledge. When this when this boy child, girl child, man child, woman child, whatever it is, when this so called adult child surrenders, then what happens? The ahankara is supplicated and is ready for knowledge. You surrender, you disarm yourself. The ego disarms itself, and the ego surrenders its authorship. The ego surrenders its offensive and defensive tendencies, the raga and the dvesha. All these things the ego surrenders, and therefore becomes, comes under the comes under the purview of the Lord. Then the adult is ready to be taught. The adult is finally qualified for knowledge, because finally the ego has surrendered. And so, hey Pungavaketana, you are what? Pungavaketana. Pungavaketana means the flag, you're advertising, you're calling. And if you look at the chat box, I have sent you a photo of Lord Dakshinamurti. You can look at the small being underneath the foot. So you can download that. You click on that and you can download that. Okay, and you can see what I'm talking about. The Lord is not worried about this unconscious mind, about the inner child, about the storehouse of papa and all these, pains and sorrows and all the samsara. The Lord simply puts his foot and says, heal, pun intended. Heal, HEEL, be disciplined, and heal, be transformed. And so the Lord takes it upon himself to, as the teacher, to take care of the unconscious mind, and to take care of all the pains and sorrows of samsara, and then finally make the person ready for the knowledge. So, hey Pungava Ketana, oh, take care of my unconscious, make me ready for the knowledge. More we will see tomorrow. Is tomorrow the last day? Yes?
Yes, Swamiji.
Yeah. So tomorrow is the last day, so we will finish this, and then we'll also have some time for your feedback and whatever you want to share about some highlight that you got out of this, something that you are taking away. Because after all, we hear only 1/4 of the knowledge is gained from the teacher, and another fourth is gained from the co-students. So let us so we can take advantage of that. ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्तिः 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 हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ ॐ नमस्ते to all. Good night, Shubharatri.
Namaste,
Yeah,
Swamiji.
Om. Take care, take care.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Yeah, take
Thank you.
care.
Namaste.
No.
Om. All, and thankfully this 2020 is on the way out. What a year we have had. Yeah. So,
Good night, Saminiji.
good
Namaste,
night.
Swamiji.
Om.
Namaste Swamiji.
Namaste.
Namaskar. Om.
Hari Om.
Yes, namaste to all.
No. Yeah.